and welcome to Real Estate Cookies. This is Steve. I'm glad you're with me today. If you haven't followed or subscribed to the channel, please do that. It'll help us get noticed. But today I want to talk about finding the right location for your investment properties. It's been said that the top three things to know about real estate is location, 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 and that is true. But what makes a good location? I mean, that's not a complete thought. I always thought to myself. So let's dive into that a little bit today. And we're going to start by just dividing neighborhoods and real estate areas to think about into four separate categories: A, B, C, and D. Very simple. We'll start with A. A properties are probably not what you're going to start investing in. These are high-end. Think about the nicest neighborhoods in town. Maybe it's a gated community. Maybe they're on the water, waterfront properties. We're going to look at that separately at a different time. But for right now, type A properties are your very, very nice and expensive neighborhoods. And they're not going to cash flow typically unless you have a lot of cash to put down. Rentals aren't really the most popular thing in those neighborhoods. Some of them have restrictions against renting them. So you can't really, I wouldn't suggest jumping into type A neighborhoods for your investment properties to start with. They're pretty easy to identify. I mean, they're new construction, high-end, might be high-end condos, might be high-end development, subdivisions, I mean, you name it. Again, I wouldn't suggest starting there. Now, B and C are where you're going to kind of make your money, I would say. B properties would be right underneath the A properties, but these are going to be older established neighborhoods that have nice single-family homes in them. Maybe it's condos, but they're a little bit older, but they're well-maintained, and a high percentage of owner-occupied owners as well. The difference between B and C has a higher percentage of rental ownership as opposed to B. So if you can be in a B neighborhood with a high percentage of owner-occupied owners throughout the whole neighborhood, and you're one of the few rental owners in that neighborhood, that's attractive to people who want to rent the home. It's attractive to future buyers, and you typically get a little bit home that's nicely more taken care of, and then also the homes around it are going to be nicely taken care of as well. So that's what I would suggest looking at is your B and C neighborhoods. Now, B neighborhoods, how do you identify them? Well, I would say, again, you're going to find that there is not a lot of rentals. Now, how do you drive through a neighborhood and figure out if they're rentals or owners? It's a little bit of a judgment process, but in general, and this isn't characters of everybody, owner-occupied homes are more maintained, better landscaping, better flowers, not as much things in the yard. The houses are painted; they're just better maintained. If you have a schedule where you can go in the middle of the day, a B neighborhood is going to have a lot of service industries. They're going to have people like coming to spray the yard. They're going to have people coming to mow the yard. They're going to have just trucks in there doing a lot of work. A neighborhoods probably have the most work. People come to service the pools, mow the yard, the landscaping, wash the windows. You're going to have that in A neighborhood, but a B neighborhood, you're going to have some services showing up. And you're not going to see a lot of people around during the day. A lot of people will be working at home. You're walking the dogs. You can think of your just classic, hometown America type feel. And these neighborhoods are throughout your city. They're on the north side, south side, east side, west side. They're kind of spread out, and you got to kind of search for them. I'd recommend pulling out a map and begin circling neighborhoods, and the best you can, figuring out that's a D neighborhood, A neighborhood, B neighborhood. And as you drive, think through that as well. Okay. Now, one other way to identify is typically B neighborhoods are not transition neighborhoods. What that means is, as we transition to a C neighborhoods are going to be just usually on the outskirts of commercial. So you're going to see a commercial Walgreens and national retailers and small local restaurants and shops and maybe some industrial even at times, and then it transitions into a neighborhood. Those typically don't hold their value quite as much as a neighborhood that's tucked away. So a B neighborhood you're going to see not necessarily close to commercial developments, and a C neighborhood might be right next to something. Okay, So lastly, on the B neighborhood, rents are going to be a little bit more. Prices of homes are going to be a little bit more. But you will see homes in there that you can purchase that have been owned for 40 years by or 50 years by one family, or one person's lived there and retired and they passed away, and there's estate sales in there. Homes that are dated, it was built in the 70s and still has a shag carpet, the pink tiles in the bathroom. You still have that stuff, and there's cool to find, and they have really good bones. So you can go in and you can remodel them and have a cool place. If you do a little good decorating, make some good choices on your materials, they're still very attractive homes because they were taken care of, they were built well, they weren't added onto and everything. And so I love finding a nice B in a B neighborhood, maybe the worst home in a B neighborhood. That's money right there, because you can fix it up, you'll have demand. And if people that are looking in those neighborhoods, as far as homeowners, like owner occupieds, might pass up on that property because it's not fixed up. If you have some vision, you come in, you take that property under, you'll have a whole market of people that want to purchase it. So I really like B neighborhoods, and I like familiarizing myself with them throughout town to know where they are, because you can find a kind of a gem in there amidst all the other properties. Now you're also going to find motivated sellers in B neighborhoods. You might have a divorce, you might have a death in the family, someone moving because of a job, they got to sell really quickly. Just keep familiar with what goes up on the market in those B neighborhoods. So you want to find the B neighborhoods, you want to keep your eye on the market on those, but then also look for duplexes in B neighborhoods. They're going to be more expensive, but they're going to be really nice. And a B neighborhood will allow you to live in there. If you're looking to move into a duplex, like one of my other videos, move into a B neighborhood in a duplex and rent out the other side. That is like it's perfect. So they are in there. You got to just go find them. So there'll be multiple B neighborhoods around your city, and then also opportunities there as well. Let's move into C. So C neighborhoods have a higher percentage of rental ownership. They're typically maybe not as maintained around. You drive around the neighborhood, there's might be a lot more kids running around. There might be more not as well kept yards. I've seen more cars in the driveway and on the streets because there's not as many garages. The houses are a little bit smaller. They may not be painted or updated as well. You're not going to see a lot of service trucks in there. You're not going to see a lot of yard maintenance. People mow their own yards. And you're going to see sometimes people work different shifts. So you're going to have not a lot of like your first shift workers or your 9 to 5 type of office jobs. You're going to have shift workers. So you might see people around during the day. People work second shift, first shift, all kinds of things. And C neighborhoods are a great place for you to get started. If you want to buy a rental property to start with, find a C neighborhood. These are going to be in transition neighborhoods outside of commercial properties, like I mentioned. They're going to be on the outskirts of B neighborhoods. And then they're also going to be on the outskirts of D neighborhoods, and we'll talk about that. I often find that C neighborhoods have a distinct dividing line. So it might be, a certain road. If you're east of that road, you're good. If you're west of that road, it's not so good. So there's a dividing line in there that you gotta pay attention to. And with a C neighborhood, prices are lower. There's more houses for sale. There's income properties for sale. There's duplexes, 4 units, apartment buildings mixed in with single family, owners that have been there for 40 years mixed in with a rental right next door. I mean, they're fun neighborhoods, but there are some innate challenges with those neighborhoods as well that you got to watch. And so I do really like to find and be very familiar with the C neighborhoods and make sure I'm not buying in a C that's actually a D. Okay, so a C neighborhood, you're gonna feel safe walking around. You're gonna feel like there's a friendliness in the neighborhood. And you're going to feel good just being in the neighborhood, but you're also going to realize there's opportunities. You're going to see a nice property that's well maintained right next to a property that's fallen apart. You're going to see a for rent sign next to a very well maintained house. It's kind of a hodgepodge. Your C neighborhoods may be transitioning to a D neighborhood, or they may be transitioning to a B neighborhood. You got to really figure that out. And you figure that out by walking the neighborhoods. I like to take my dog, walk through those neighborhoods, just really be aware of the different types of properties that are there, the condition, the feel of the neighborhood. I would go in the evening, I would go on a Saturday, I would go on a Sunday to walk that to get a feeling if you feel safe or if you don't. And if you feel safe and you start to see, yeah, that's a really nice house. Oh, that house is being remodeled. This house was just sold, and you got families out. Like it might be transitioning to a B neighborhood or just a solid C. But if you're there and you don't feel safe, and there's more rundown properties than there are properties being fixed up, then I would really suggest you might be having a C neighborhood transitioning to a D. And so that I would stay away from. All right. You want to find that pocket that is going from C to B, or is just a really established C neighborhood. All right. Now, what I also would suggest with a C neighborhood is to keep track of, like, you don't want to be in an area that is just all apartment buildings. If there are just predominantly apartment building after apartment building after apartment building and a few houses speckled in there, that's usually not a solid C neighborhood. You want houses. Now, in the C neighborhoods, you also find a lot of opportunities to remodel. You'll find rental properties that have been destroyed by renters and frantic landlords want to get rid of them. Opportunity. You'll find duplexes that possibly you can move into and live into for 2 years and 1 day and move out and keep it. You'll have properties that an investor may have come in and bought, fixed up, and made it really nice, but they're still selling under the market because they bought it at such a deal. And if you have a different strategy, you could use that. So you're going to find those opportunities in the C neighborhoods. You're going to find for sale by owners. You're going to find bank-owned properties there. Lots of opportunities and fun, like eclectic areas. I love a solid C neighborhood because they're a lot of fun and they offer a lot of opportunities. Now let's talk about a D neighborhood. So I don't suggest you invest in a D neighborhood. Now I did it right in the beginning because I didn't really know better, and it was cheap. It was super cheap, and so I thought, how can I go wrong? Well, what you never can really account for is the cost of a D neighborhood, of the turnover, the not paid rent, and just the frustration of not getting good renters. So how do you know it's a D neighborhood? Well, it's the bad area of town. I mean, it's the area that has predominantly rentals, a lot of people around during the day. If you drive through, there's just a lot of people standing, sitting, everywhere around during the day. You're not going to see a lot of banks in the area, but in a B and a C, you'll see banks. D, you won't see very many banks. You'll see check cashing stations. You'll see a lot of, like, you won't see any like national retailers. You're going to see like mom and pop places all over the place. You'll see garbage in the area. You'll see cars parked on the yards. If you walk the neighborhood, you might feel unsafe. You might see drug deals go down. I mean, I've seen it all. And when you look at those properties, a lot of them are super cheap, and you do the math and you think, man, I can make this cash flow. But it's very difficult. It's high intense management. You're going in there all the time to chase down rent. You might have, we call it Section 8 here, but you might have like government assisted rentals, which will guarantee your income, but they won't guarantee the viability of your property. If you want to get discouraged as a landlord right out of the bat, buy a D property, because you'll get in it and then you'll be discouraged and you'll think, why did I ever do this? So I tell you this whole story so you can probably stay away from the A, stay away from the D, stay in the B and the C. That's where you want to be, okay? And I would say there are C minus, C and C plus, and so be C to C plus in your investment strategies. Don't get lured in by the cheap price on the D. It's very damaging to your ability to continue as a landlord and as an investor if you do the wrong thing. So be very careful. Now, a couple other little things to look at. Zillow's pretty good. You can get a feel for, if you go on Zillow.com, you can look at neighborhoods. You can look at how many are for sale, how many have sold, what they've sold for. Zillow is a great way to kind of measure the income level of the different places, and obviously a D usually has a lower income level than the A. And then also a lot of the cities will produce a map of crime in the area. So the city close to us here is Racine. And I didn't know this. We had purchased early in our investment career. We had purchased a apartment building in that city. And now that I know this, it was in a D neighborhood, and so that's a worst case scenario. After we bought it, we were having all kinds of issues and problems and evictions and fights, and I mean, you name it, we had it. And I stumbled on the city website that showed a map of the city, and it had little emblems of like a gun or a knife or a guy with a bandit for robbery, all these things. And wherever there was a reported crime, they just put that on the map. So you could literally look at the map and see where all the crime was. Well, you couldn't see my apartment building. It was covered with all the emblems. It was not a fun process. We ended up selling it, thankfully, but it was a real lesson in knowing your neighborhoods and not just looking at price. So if I have a challenge to you, take a drive. Take a drive and go find all 4 neighborhoods. Buy a map and circle and highlight what you think and try to mark it out. Really know your investment area. Now, if you say, well, Steve, everything around me is A, well, then you got to drive. You got to go find a different area. Or everything's around me is D. Well, then go find a different city. Okay? If you have to drive a half hour, 40 minutes, then you do. You got to get started somewhere. And so I would really suggest taking a field trip, doing some driving, getting your eyes acclimated to find deals. I always say, like, my uncle would drive and he would say, deer, deer, deer. He'd be pointing out deers in the fields. Like I could never find them because I wasn't looking for them. But I learned that from him. And now when I drive, I'm always pointing out deer in fields to my family, and they don't ever see them because they're not looking, but I see it. Well, you have that same mentality when you go driving in neighborhoods. Ooh, there's a house with overgrown grass, overgrown shrubs. The windows are falling apart. Wow, that's awesome. And I'd pull into the neighborhood and my kids would be like, what are you doing? That's a deal. Look, that could be potential. To get out and start walking around the property, writing down the address, like all those things. But you got to have an eye for it. They wouldn't see it. My family members, other family don't see it. I see the potential deals. I might see an estate sale or for sale by owner, or a house that just went on the market, or a house that's listed, but listed by someone out of state. That's a clue too. So that's in a different story of finding deals. But as you're driving in these neighborhoods, keep your eyes open. Rentals, home ownership, service industry present in the neighborhood, people around the middle of the day, clean, trash, like just figure it out. And it's a lot of fun. And you'll get to know your city, your neighborhoods, and then you'll know where to search. Because you can take that then, you know the zip code of that area you want to be in. You can plug that into the website where you search, and then you'll see everything in the neighborhood. You're narrowing it down, and you'll feel confident about where you're going to invest. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this was a nice little bite-sized chunk that you can take with you and do some homework this weekend and come back again because we will be posting again. Subscribe to my channel, please. I do need more subscribers. And hopefully that was someone that just beeped in right now that was subscribing, but I doubt it. And we'll be back soon. Thanks.